Mayor, thank you very much, and I would like to thank everyone who had anything to do with this weekend, whether they set up the parade, the dinner last night, participated in the parade, or were here for this ceremony. You know, we watch the news at night, and you know, as you watch the evening news, you don't see a lot of good. You know, people probably get the wrong impression of America when they watch the evening news. I say to Americans, let them come to Raritan for the Basilone Day Parade if you want to see what America is really like. Out here, this is America. And if you watch the news, it's not the same. I can't tell you how proud I have been to have participated this weekend. You have honored a hometown boy, but to the Marine Corps, he is a legend, and to our country, a national hero. I have a connection with John Basilone. As the mayor mentioned, my dad was a Marine. He served with John Basilone in Cuba in 1940 and 41. He was a machine gunner in the same section. My dad was injured in Cuba, medically discharged, which is probably why I'm alive today. But I grew up with my dad's photo album, and in that album there were pictures of John Basilone. And my dad thought enough about John Basilone that when he won the Congressional Medal of Honor, he had clippings of the Daily News, all sorts of different clippings of an individual he knew in Cuba years before. I grew up with that photo album, and that's probably why I'm here today and joined the Marines, because of John Basilone. He truly was a hero. He was a leader from the front. He knew commander's intent, meaning when his boss told him, hold that ridgeline at Guadalcanal and prevent the Japanese from taking Henderson Field, or when you hit the beach at Iwo Jima, move inland, get your troops off the beach, and take those airfields. He knew what to do. The Marine Corps puts a heavy weight on our legacy and on our history. Every Marine that comes in, whether it's boot camp at Parris Island or San Diego, or as an officer candidate at Quantico, learns about the Marine Corps history. And they learn about John Basilone. Today in boot camp, there is a 54-hour session from hell, I guess to put in the easiest words, where the Marine Corps puts its recruits through an enduring, both physically and mentally task. And at the end of those 54 hours where they get very little sleep, very little food, the drill instructors line them up and they hand them an eagle, globe, and anchor, signifying that they are now Marines. Following that ceremony, they are read the Medal of Honor citation of John Basilone. That's what Marines think about that legend right there. And I got to tell you, when we were getting ready in 2003 to cross the line of departure from Kuwait into Iraq, I was the CG, the commanding general of a unit called Task Force Tarawa. My boss, who was a lieutenant general at the time, General Conway, who later became our commandant, said, I wonder how our young men and women will perform. It had been years since we've been in combat, really since Desert Storm. And he said, this is a different generation, a high-tech generation. They play computer games, but what are they going to do on the battlefield? Well, it was no surprise that those young men and women in every service performed to make us proud to be Americans. And we are still fortunate today that we have young men and women willing to don the uniform of our nation and to go in harm's way to protect the freedoms that we have enjoyed for centuries. So I'd like to just continue briefly about John Basilone, because he was a successful individual, and he was only 28 years old when he was killed in action. Whether it was in the boxing ring, where he was undefeated, he was in the Army, but that's okay, undefeated in the boxing ring. Well, heck, on the battlefield, if you win the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross, it doesn't get any more successful than that. When he came back after having earned the medal, he went on a war bonds tour. He brought in $1.4 million. Now, you know, today, they say, well, gee, that doesn't sound like much. But in today's dollars, that's over $19 million he brought in for our country to help the war effort. So, in closing, I just want to say, I wish my dad were here, because I'd like to see him standing here with me with his statue. But John Basilone, you have affected many Marines and many Americans, and I salute you. God bless you all. Thank you for being here today. As we say in the Marine Corps, Semper Fi. Hoorah!
That's it.